Mr. Chairman, members of the University of the Gambia Electoral Commission. Members of the University of the Gambia Electoral Commission, members of the most upright, the only fraud-free and ever-progressive political establishment to have ever emerged in the history of the University of the Gambia students' political dispensation, the Solution is Salvation Coalition. Comrades of the soul, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to observe all other protocols that I may oversight. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes in order to get that which is deservedly yours, you must ask for it. And that is exactly what I am doing here today, to push for my claims as best as I know how. Ladies and gentlemen, the claims of our leadership mishaps passes speedily. It passes too quick until it becomes but a memory. It passes out of sight, out of our thoughts, out of our minds, until we are faced with making a choice again, we tend to repeat the same mistakes. Ladies and gentlemen, the tragedy of our University of the Gambia student politics is that those who are supposed to know don't care. Those who care don't want to know. Those who matter are isolated. Those who are innocent are castigated. They are labeled. They are insulted. Those who are guilty are against. They are celebrated. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the mercy of either being governed by those who care less or those who know less. And the Welfare and Culture Minister, Mr. Modi Samba, a cultural context victim. Now, in detail, ladies and gentlemen, in detail, I want to read in detail the 7 lives of our union, ladies and gentlemen. And I intend that you listen to these policies attentively, because if a man confuses his wife to his daughter, he makes the mistake of impregnating the daughter instead of his wife. Ladies and gentlemen, if a man's hand is looking forward, which is in the boiling pot, he gets that hand burned in the end. So, ladies and gentlemen, why we intend to decentralize the University of the Gambia administrative function? Understandably, this is a reality that each and every University of the Gambia student endure. That our university administrative functions, at least administrative functions that are central at the life of every University of the Gambia student, offices such as the transcript office, and the testimonial office. And this is the reason why we tend to see long excruciating queues at the University of the Gambia campus. Now, with this policy, we intend to decentralize the University of the Gambia administrative function. We intend to have a faculty officer at Banjul, while the office in Kanifi remains central, and while we have another in Brikama and another in Farababanda, so that whenever a student of the University of the Gambia develops a need of any of these offices, you need not go to Kanifi and queue. All you need is to walk to the place that is closer to your own area of residence and get yourself sorted. Ladies and gentlemen, the second life of our union, that is the University of the Gambia, Dean, Students and Provost Forum, we understand that there are a lot of unanswered questions in the minds and hearts of the students of the University of the Gambia. Disturbing questions for that matter. And these disturbing questions will propel students to go externally to seek answers, not with their immediate faculty management or leadership, but to the university management itself. And it would not even solve the problem, because these questions will not be answered to. So with this policy, I intend to create a curriculum where the students of the University of Uganda will hold their immediate faculty leaders to account for the manner in which they run their faculty. These questions and answers will not only be heard, but these questions and answers would be documented to be tabled as a petition paper in Senate, thereby informing a policy decision forwarded to the governing council, where the incoming president, Mr. Ibrahim Toure, will strengthen and push for its implementation as a policy. Ladies and gentlemen, academic support and tutorial cycle. What we see here as a fraser is that there is a problem that we need to decipher, and this problem is a psychological problem that frasers journey with into the University of the Gambia. When a fraser comes to the University of the Gambia, he is exposed to a whole new academic environment, which is different from that which he has experienced in his past academic life. So this creates a problem and a psychological burden on the student, and it leads to a false start. So what we intend to do is to create a body system each fresher will be attached to a third year or a final year student to be a mentor. If the number is disproportionate, we will create a mentor to 3 students or 2 students to do the disproportionate. On the other hand is the academic or the structured tutorial cycle. We understand that there are a lot of tutorial cycles going around the University of the Gambia, but the only ones we know to be structured are that of the School of Business and Public Administration. But we intend to have a whole university round in all faculties a structured tutorial cycle. And in these tutorial cycles, ladies and gentlemen, we will have tutorial classes at every month twice, and in these tutors will be certified at the end of the tenure of the 23rd Executive Council, where I will serve as Senator, and Mr. Ibrahim Atura will serve as its President, and Mr. Mohamed Stephen will serve as its Secretary General, so as all the other candidates of the Solutionist Salvation Coalition. Ladies and gentlemen, policy number 4, the fourth life of our union. That is the University of the Gambia and the University of St. Louis academic and cultural exchange visit. We have seen lecturers and even sub-associations joining with their students to the neighboring countries in West Africa here, all in the name of research. But hardly do we see that any paper is published to that regard, because they tend to go to the University of St. Antajob. And the University of St. Antajob is in the heart of Dakar, ladies and gentlemen. And in the heart of Dakar, there are tourist sites like the Renaissance African, the Lacrosse and the Gorée Island. So in these places, they tend to forget the purpose of their trip and they focus on taking pictures and not research. So ladies and gentlemen, we have prior agreement with the Students' Union of the University of St. Louis, where a visiting professor from St. Louis came to the Gambia here in partnership with a sitting professor at the School of Arts and Sciences. So we are going to create this partnership, and we will journey to the University of St. Louis, thereby creating a research which papers would be published. The fifth line of our union, ladies and gentlemen, that is the week-long orientation ceremony. The last time the University of the Gambia has ever seen a structured and a more impactful and effective orientation ceremony is during the tenure of the 21st Executive Council under the leadership of the mighty and ever-progressive Mr. Uthman Gate, who is a renowned senator of our union. Even though the current bearer of this office, a man that will approach you with clothes that do not match the weather, promises that he is going to do a little orientation ceremony. But what we saw is like a tete-a-tete and a discussion, which is not even effective, thereby creating more problems and questions on the sub-association. Ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of time, as I have initially done a rundown of our policies, my opponent would come here and he would shout that he is a teacher, and he would shout that he is a speaker of an electoral commission. But in my life, I have never seen failure to celebrate an individual. My opponent has failed 4 of his courses, and that is why he is here today. That is why he has been able to make it through the issue server. We draw inference from an individual who is a narcos, an individual who is infused with methamphetamine, who is infused with nicotine and tar. Now let us see if such an individual is worthy of an inspiration. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman of the Education, Chairman of the Electoral Commission, members of the 22nd Executive Council, fellow candidates, I greet you all. But before I begin, I must put sense into that coconut's head. This is my 40th at the University of the Gambia. I have not spent 8 years at the University of the Gambia. I got admission in 2021, and I got a scholarship. I got a scholarship in 2021, and he is here. He has been dividing his courses for more than 10 years in the University of the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever is a failure, he can never make it. Whatever is a failure, he can never make it. Whatever is a failure, he can never make it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mohamed Stephen, the Vice Presidential candidate for Mighty Industrial Alliance for Change. Over the years, I've gathered a range of experience, skills,
and leadership empowerment through youth empowerment, community development, and advancement of education through teaching and mentorship. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a qualified teacher, and I can proudly be test and said I graduated from this particular college in 2019, and I have taught more than 2,000 students at level 11 and 12 of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, currently more than 50 students that I taught and mentored are currently studying in the University of the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, some of my students that I taught and mentored are currently saying 7 class courses and helping do this assignment. Ladies and gentlemen, I will quickly take you to my policies. First on my policy is the standardization of the orientation. Second on my policy is the lecture evaluation. Third on my policy is ensuring timely release of academic grades. Fourth on my policy is promoting responsible representation. Fifth on my policy is ensuring timely clearance of more aspirated students and private students. Sixth on my policy is ensuring or advocating for the extension of the summer calendar for more schools. Ladies and gentlemen, my seventh policy is priority transportation cards for differently abled students, pregnant mothers, and nursing mothers. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin with, the standardization of orientation was created into office in collaboration with the Education and Research Minister, Mohamed Nyamu, with Mohamed I ensure I transform the orientation to be more impactful and informative. Ladies and gentlemen, I ensure every student or a DMU who gets admission into the University of the Gambia is given the required knowledge and skills in order to navigate the proposal, in order to register courses, to understand the academic pressure. That is my responsibility when voted I into office. And I inshallah tomorrow I will be your senator. Whether you like it or not, I will be your senator. Ladies and gentlemen, Mohamed is a household name in the University of the Gambia. I have mentored over 500 students who currently get admission on how to navigate the portal, register courses. In fact, I volunteer, I am a candidate, I volunteer, I went to public officers to extend classes in one of the places to register their courses. They are here, they can be our leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, second on my policy is lecture evaluation. I will ensure lecturers are evaluated on semester basis. Over the years, we have observed some lecturers are performing below expectation. That is also the of the management framework to supervise and assess lecturers. We have voted into office in collaboration with the Education and Research Minister and the Director of Students Affairs. I will ensure student teachers or lecturers are assessed or evaluated on semester basis. Ladies and gentlemen, next on your policies and ensuring timely release of academic grades. Ladies and gentlemen, I can proudly put my chest and say that Honorable Yunus Omai has done his job as the Vice President. Currently, 5 schools have been given the approval right to administer grades. If voted into office, I will ensure that I have voted for the extension of that approval right in those schools. Ladies and gentlemen, what on my policy is promoting responsible representation. It's sad. A vice president, a whole vice president, doesn't have that as a policy. And the vice president representing university students are disabled, where academic matters are discussed. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ensure I represent the university students and disabled with distinction. I will make sure that I discharge my responsibilities without fear or favor. Ladies and gentlemen, in fact, I have started meeting relevant stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ensure the timely clearance of more aspirated students, multi-sponsor students, and private students who are studying in the University of the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, in collaboration with the Education and Research Minister and the Director of Student Affairs and relevant stakeholders, including the Minister of Research, the Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, I will ensure these students are cleared 15 days before the portal opens for registration. Ladies and gentlemen, must I remind you, my opponent, Honorable Gavega, a failure at Chosa. He had 9 policies and was unable to achieve those policies. He achieved only 2 policies in Chosa. He is regarded as the worst president ever so far. But that is a failure. He can never make it. But that is a failure. He can never make it. He is an arrogant leader. Very arrogant. Very arrogant. He fights with women, fights with girls, including children, and he fights with lecturers. We didn't want somebody fighting lecturers to represent the Senate at the highest decision making body. Ladies and gentlemen, my opponent, second policy, Banega's second policy is bogus on us. Is bogus. This policy state decentralization of the University of the administration function. Currently, the administration functions are not decentralized. In Banjul, the students who are studying in the School of Medicine and Allied Sciences can tell you that there's a transcript office where they can prove that they have access to their transcript in Banjul. So that means it is not decentralized. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to know that the country is under construction in Canada. Why do you need to decentralize? It is only an ignorant person, a purpose person, an indisciplined person who will come up with this baseless policies, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, second of this policy, he said he's going to create a forum to have an interaction with the deans and provosts. He doesn't know himself president as vice president. Vice president representing the United States and the Senate. And at the Senate, you dine and wine with deans and provosts. Why do you need to interact with them in another avenue again? That is baseless. He doesn't know his function. He is somebody who is ignorant, indisciplined, and he has little knowledge, and that is very dangerous. Ladies and gentlemen, second on my policy is ensuring that priority transportation cards are given to different level students, pregnant women, and nursing mothers. I want to tell you, your incoming senator, by tomorrow, inshallah, I will be sworn in within these 2 weeks as your senator, inshallah, and I will make sure that priority transportation cards are given to pregnant mothers, nursing mothers, and different level students. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, leadership is not about titles. Leadership is about impact. It is not about who speaks the most, but who delivers best. And Mr. Mamman has the required knowledge and institutional memory to represent you at the Senate. I graduated from the Gambia College with distinction, and I have been teaching for more than 7 years in the Gambia. I am the best, and I am the best representative. That can allow, if you want your challenges, your academic challenges to be history in the university. Vote into office, Mr. Mamman to be your senator, and all the educational challenges will be addressed. Because I know your problems. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to grow the court this court in the but I must ensure, I must educate you people to understand that Mr. Mamman is not a newbie. Mr. Mamman understand academic matters. I am teaching the Malaysian Secondary School. I serve as the secretary of the disciplinary committee. I interact with students. I know their problem. I wait for the office. I will solve your problem. Let me know your person.